Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Velero community meeting / open discussion, where we flesh out what we've been working on and what's happening within the Velero project. So we got some big things coming up here, and I'm going to leave it over to Steve.
Hey everyone, good morning. Yeah, I'm just a kind of brief PSA. So the beta for 1.2 is out and has been out for a week or two. We're not planning to release a second beta just based on the small number of issues that have come in. So I think the next release will be the full 1.2 release. And I'd say you can expect that either towards the end of this week if we feel ready, or sometime next week. And then, yeah, for my personal update, I mean, I've basically just been working on making sure that 1.2 release is good to go, checking, making some small bug fixes, doing some reviews on fixes that have come in, and just working on cleaning up the docs. So that's really it, and that's what I'll be focusing on over the next few days until the release is out.
Do you want to cover a few of the highlights of the 1.2 release?
Sure, I can do that. Actually working on writing the blog post right now, so I'll just pull up what I have there. The biggest thing is that we've worked on taking the cloud provider plugins that were within the core Velero repository, so the plugins for AWS, Azure, and GCP, and we've extracted them into their own repositories and into their own proper plugin container images. So this kind of brings them to parity with any other third-party providers. It means that they can sort of evolve independently of Velero, so that we don't necessarily need to release them on the same cadence as the core of Velero. It also has the added benefit of making the Velero binary smaller. Means that you don't have to ship all of the SDKs in core Velero. You can kind of add only what you need. So there are some other benefits as well, and we'll have some more details on that in the blog post, but so that was definitely a big one. We've made some more improvements to the Restic integration. Some internal improvements that reduce the amount of time that any Restic repositories were under an exclusive lock. We've made some improvements so that if you're using Restic to back up persistent volumes, that even if the pod that's using the persistent volume gets rescheduled, you still get an incremental backup on the subsequent Restic backup of that persistent volume. So just making things more efficient there. We've added some progress reporting for Restic operations. So for backups and restores, you'll now get periodic status updates of % complete. And you can see that through the Velero backup describe and Velero restore describe commands. So that's really useful for folks who want to know what's going on with their Restic backups and restores. Let's see, a bunch of other things. We added structural schemas to all of our custom resource definitions. So this is a requirement for any custom resource definitions that are being created in the V1 API extensions group, which exists as of 1.16. So we've added the schema there, which basically just gives us better validation on any custom resources that are being created. We've added some more support for server-side encryption in some of our providers. I think AWS and GCP were the two where we added additional options there. And a bunch of other things. So hopefully that covers the big ones. Apologies if I missed anyone's particular feature, but we'll have the exhaustive list in the changelog as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve.
Sure.
Any questions on 1.2? Things are coming in into the new release. All right. Moving on. Nolan, what have you been up to?
Mostly recovering from a cold and jet lag last week. So I've been some reviews, working on KubeCon prep. Adnan and I are doing a talk on CSI volume snapshotting. We may touch on Velero there, but we're not going to focus on Velero. That's mostly on the existing CSI volume snapshot. and also reviewing the documentation for 1.2, since I was not here for a lot of the writing of that, just to make sure it's understandable. So yeah, not a whole lot from me this week.
Cool. Sounds good. Carlisia, you've been working on Helm stuff.
Yes. So I upgraded the Helm documentation. I cleaned up a lot of what was there, spruced it up, and now it reflects what you have to do for version 1.2. It is a work in progress PR because it's pointing to the beta, version 1.2 beta images. And once we do the official release, I will update that PR and submit it for review. And we did a lot of docs updates. Steve has been great also in guiding how to make that better. I'm really happy with where we are as far as docs now. I think I've mentioned it before. We have contributing information. Now we have some guidelines for for things that we have to do. I mean, things that all of us who are developing have to do for consistency. And just the usual PR reveals, and I'm working on a secret project. That's going to be out before KubeCon. That's it.
Awesome. And yeah, we'll hear more about the secret project at a later date.
Very soon.
Any questions for Carlisia on the Helm update and other things here? All right. Adnan, what have you been doing?
Hey, yeah, so yesterday pushed a change to get a CRDs only flag for Velero install. So this will be important when upgrading CRDs. Users can use this command to just generate the new CRDs and then pipe that to something like kubectl apply to update the CRDs. Other than that, I've been kind of doing a mix of KubeCon prep and community support. And I'll probably be working with Nolan later this week as well to sync on our talk.
Awesome. So just a small update from me. Later today, I have a call with someone that is way more knowledgeable about Jekyll and Jekyll websites than I am. So we're going to look at upgrading the other websites to, well, first of all, Velero and a bunch of other websites to Jekyll 4.0. Should make some of the builds that we do faster, which is really helpful when we do local dev on the website, because right now it takes like 25 to 30 seconds for a build, which is just nuts. So hopefully that should make builds a lot faster and yeah, help out with portion. It doesn't really matter when we actually push things and publish them, but it would help immensely when we do local dev for it. So yeah, I'm gonna have a call later today in a few hours. So I'll let you all know how that goes. We're looking at upgrading the contour site first, and then if that works out well, we'll roll out the changes for the other websites too. So something that came up last week on last week's call was the community lunch at KubeCon San Diego. So we have a time and date, and the way we're planning this is essentially to come to the VMware booth. If you're going to KubeCon, come to the VMware booth on Wednesday at 12:30, and we'll direct you to where we are at. We'll also occupy a few tables, so you can come and join us there, and we'll have some signs, so you will see that Velero is sitting at these tables, and we would love to chat with you there. Does anyone want to add any more context around that community lunch? No? All right, then I think I covered it. Any questions around that? If you are going to be at KubeCon, by the way, please stop by the VMware booth and chat with us. If you want to chat with us one-on-one, of course, you can always reach out in Slack. It's the easiest way to get hold of most of us here. Do we have any questions from the community on the call here?
I have not a question, but something about discussion, a topic for discussion. We don't have to do it today. I was looking for a niche. There is an issue. I think Nola opened it, but I'm not finding it in any way. That was a proposal to restructure how we name the plugins. So maybe we say like plugins providers, instead of saying plugins, we'll say providers. The providers have plugins. And I added some comment there too. Does it ring a bell to anyone?
I remember the discussion, but I don't remember the issue.
Somebody opened the tickets, put a bunch of comment there. I added a bunch of comments there, and I'm not finding this ticket. I'm pretty sure it was you, Nolan, but I'll dig more.
I think it may be in the issue around the whole like install and configuration UX,
Maybe.
which I could find if you give me a minute.
I think it's a good topic for us to talk about. That's one thing that the fact that we always talk about a plugin, that's one aspect of it, but that can be multiple plugins inside that plugin. I'd love to resolve that.
There, I just pasted the link to the issue in discussion topics.
Do you,
awesome.
you want me to share it? People can see it. All right.
I don't want to spring something completely new. We can talk about this another time. Yeah, it's part of the making the install UX better.
Yeah, there was there was a lot of stuff wrapped up in addressing the install. Like we did some of this with the plugins flag on install on a Velero install command, but the -- provider parameter was a source of confusion. And yeah, that's like you say in this comment, Carlicia, like a single process can contain multiple plugins inside of it. So for example, we have the AWS repo. It has two types of plugins. It has the object storage and the volume snapshotter. So I think there's a bunch of stuff in here. Some of it is like clarifying terms and maybe coming up with like a glossary of our own jargon. And some of it is fixing up the UX around install and probably Helm.
Yeah, and I think, we can, like, plugin is a term that's, definitely overloaded all over the place. I mean, it can mean different things in different contexts, and we're probably not super, precise about how we use it. Like, it could be an individual object store implementation, or sometimes we use it to refer to a container image that contains a binary that contains multiple implementations of plugins. So we could certainly look at trying to disambiguate that, having, maybe plugin images versus plugin, instances or implementations or whatever. So I definitely think, yeah, doing that would be valuable and would help provide clarity. And I like the idea of the glossary as well. And then I think this, this issue also covers and gets at just the general install and configuration flow. And I think there is a kind of a big open question of, should you be able to install Velero without yet configuring it for any particular backup storage location or any provider? And if so, then what happens when you start adding or removing those things after doing the install? We've always kind of historically assumed that when you're installing, you're also configuring a place to back things up and some kind of storage provider for that. But I think given changes that we've made over the last several releases, that might not be the most intuitive flow anymore. So I think we definitely need to look at that and think about what makes sense.
Yeah, and I think it makes it's possible that once we start looking at plugins as components, like so there's, like you're saying, Steve, there's an image, there is a provider, there's like a bunch of things that we call plugins. Once we start disambiguating these things, it's going to be easier to answer the question, what do we need to like really, developer needs to start out with this. It might be parts of what we call a plugin, but it might not need to be the whole thing. Just a hunch I have.
Yeah, so I think at some point, like, we need to decide when we want to spend time on this, but someone should sort of take a look at the existing flow and think about what an ideal flow would be for install and configuration, and start to sort some of this out. I mean, I think there are a bunch of interrelated issues here, and it's going to be a little bit hard to tackle them one by one without thinking about kind of the whole thing altogether.
Yeah.
So revisiting this for 1.3?
Possibly. I mean, we're also planning on, over the rest of this calendar year, when we're not at conferences or on vacations, just planning on kind of looking at the totality of our backlog and, all of the big things that we want to do, and figuring out what order we'd like to attack them in. So, I definitely can't promise that we will tackle this in 1.3, but I do think it's an important thing to revisit at some point relatively soon.
Cool. One thing that Nolan reminded me of, so we do have another call that the Velero team needs to be on next Tuesday. So we're going to move this meeting from 12 p.m. Eastern to 2 p.m. Eastern next Tuesday. So hopefully that is correct in the Google Groups calendar invite. If it's not, I'll make sure to notify everyone in Slack as well. So we're going to move this 2 hours later, so you get a little more time of your day before the Velero meeting next week.
And I got that time from the invite on my calendar, so I believe it is correct.
Okay, cool. Yeah, calendars and mixing different types of calendars is always a mess. So if you didn't get the invite, let me know. I'm happy to send you a proper invite. Anything else that the Velero team wants to cover here? All right. Then I think we're done for today. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And yeah, we'll see you next week, plus 2 hours. And yeah, have a fantastic rest of your week, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.